Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a beautiful day. Um, I really admire once you take away from all the actual murder and stuff and trying to turn these stories literal. I admire the strength and zeal behind Elijah and Elisha. Sometimes I liken Elijah and Elisha to John and Juan, or Yehohanan and Yehanan, or John the Baptist and Juan Bruce, if you will. So I'm just going to read a little bit of the prophet Elisha and the prophets. I'm going to try to edit some things of my own accord because I don't like spreading words of murder and violence. And so follow along if you will. So Elijah went and found Elisha, son of Shaphat, plowing a field. There were 12 teams of oxen in the field, and Elisha was plowing the 12th team. Elijah went over to him and threw his cloak across his shoulders and then walked away. Elisha left the oxen standing there and ran after Jehohanan and said, "What the heck, man? What did you leave me? First, let me go kiss my father and mother goodbye, and then I will go with you." Elijah replied, "Go on back, but think about what I have done to you." So Elisha returned to his oxen and slaughtered them. He used the wood from the plow to build a fire to roast their flesh. He passed around the meat to the townspeople, and they ate. And then he went to Elijah with his assistant, his assistant, as his assistant. So that's just basically me taking apart this book or these teachings from Christianity and feeding the people with it or whatever. And that's something you could liken it to. About that time, King Ben-Hadad of Aram mobilized his army, supported by the chariots and horses of 32 allied kings. When they went to besiege Samaria, the capital city of Israel, and launched attacks against it, Ben-Hadad sent messengers into the city to relay this message to King Ahab of Israel. This is what Ben-Hadad says: "Your silver and gold are mine, and so are your wives and the best of your children." "All right, my lord the king," Israel's king replied. "All I have is yours." Soon Ben-Hadad's messengers returned again and said, "This is what Ben-Hadad says: I have already demanded that you give me your silver, gold, wives, and children. But about this time tomorrow, I will send my officials to search your palace and homes of your officials, and they will take away everything you consider valuable." Then Ahab summoned all the elders in the land and said to them, "Look how this man is stirring up trouble. I already agree with his demand, and I gave him my wives and children and silver and gold. Don't give in to any more demands." All the elders and the people advised. So Ahab told the messengers from Ben-Hadad, "Say this to my lord the king: I will give you everything you asked for the first time, but I cannot accept this last demand of yours." So the messengers returned to Ben-Hadad with the response. Then Ben-Hadad sent this message to Ahab: "May the gods strike him down and even kill him if there remains any enough dust from Samaria to provide even a handful to each of my soldiers." And this is why I try to tell you guys to be careful what you read in this book and to be careful of the wording you guys are spreading out. And I'm telling you all, after Aaron had took a hold of this book, a lot of people had started becoming murderers. So I'm just putting that out there. But if you look at it like a story and edification, you can learn from it. The king of Israel sent back his answers: "A warrior putting on his sword for battle should not boast like a warrior who's already won." Oof, got him. Ahab's reply reached Ben-Hadad and the other kings, and they were drinking in their tents. "Prepare to attack," Ben-Hadad commanded his officers. So they prepared to attack the city. Then a certain prophet came to see King Ahab of Israel and told him, "This is what who I am says: Do you see all these enemy forces? Today I will hand them over to you. Then you will know that I am who I am." So this is what I'm trying to explain to people, and this is why I came to. Okay, so I'm just going to say something Stone Achian, so to speak, as Joshua, and that's just a representation of what I had to do to the Jesus Christ kingdom because they had pagan idols in their house, sort of speak. Anybody that knows the Bible obviously understands what I'm talking about, I hope. So, yeah. Then you'll know that I am who I am. Ahab asked, "How will he do it?" And the prophet replied, "This is what who I am says." So also, if you look at Yehohanan, John the Baptist, and then Juan Bruce, you can look at that as Elijah and Elisha. You can look at that as Moses and Joshua. You can look at that as David and Solomon. It's the same story over and over, I'm telling you. "Should we attack first?" Ahab said. Yes, the prophet answered. So Ahab mustered the troops of 232 provincial commanders. Then he called out the rest of the army of Israel, some 7,000 men. About noontime, as Ben-Hadad and the 32 allied kings were still in their tents drinking themselves to a stupor, the troops of the provincial commanders marched out of the city as the first contingent. As they approached, Ben-Hadad's scouts reporting to him, "Some troops are coming from Samaria. Take them alive," Ben-Hadad commanded, "whether they have come for peace or for war." Whoa. But Ahab's provincial commanders and the entire army had now come out to fight. Each Israelite soldier killed his Armenian opponent, and suddenly the entire Armenian army panicked and fled. So this is just dealing with spiritual warfare. You're going to have a whole bunch of doppelgangers and crazy people trying to approach you and attack you, but you're strong in the word and spirit like the stone, and the fire does not harm you. The Israelites chased, well, if you do it right, I can't. The Israelites chased them, but King Ben-Hadad had a few of his charioteers escaped on horses. However, the king of Israel destroyed the other horses and chariots and slaughtered the Armenians. So this is talking about their concepts and their war that they built up through their words and gods. Like if somebody was to come up to me and go, "You're going to pay for Jesus," or "You're going to pay for Allah," or "You're going to pay for..." In this day and age, I will use my word and spirit to destroy those concepts. And I'm not talking about hurting them. Afterward, the prophet said to King Ahab, "Get ready for another attack. Begin making plans now, for the king of Aram will be back next spring." After their defeat, Ben-Hadad's officer said to him, "The Israelite gods are gods of the hills. That's why they won." Oof. But we can't beat them easily on the plains. In the field? Okay. Only this time replace the kings with field commanders. Recruit another army like the one you just lost. Give us the same number of horses, chariots, and men, and we will fight against them on the plains. There is no doubt that we will beat them. So King Ben-Hadad did as they suggested. The following spring he came up the Armenian army and marched out against Israel, this time at Aphek. Israel then mustered its army, set up supplies, and marched out for battle. But the Israelite army looked like two little flocks of goats in comparison to the vast Armenian forces that filled the countryside. Then the men of Huaim went to the king of Israel and said, "This is what Huaim says. The Armenians have said the Huaim is the one of the hills and not the plains, only in the heavens and not the flesh. So I will defeat his vast army for you, and then you will know that I am who I am." Then two armies camped opposite each other for 7 days. And on the seventh day, on the Sabbath, the battle began. The Israelites killed 100,000 Armenian foot soldiers and their foolish concepts, not real men, unless you got to defend yourselves, like I said. The rest fled into the town of Aphek, but the wall fell on them and killed another 27,000 men. The wall, that's... Ben-Hadad fled into the town and hid in a secret room. Ben-Hadad's officer said to him, "Sir, we have heard that the kings of Israel are merciful, so let's humble ourselves by wearing burlap around our waists and putting robes on our heads," sending him clean off, "and surrender to the king of Israel. Then perhaps he will let you live." So they put on burlap and ropes, and they went into the king of Israel and begged, "Your servant Ben-Hadad says, please let me live." The king of Israel responded, "Is he still alive? He's my brother." Then the men took this as a good sign and quickly picked up his words. "Yes," they said, "your brother Ben-Hadad. Go get him." And the king of Israel told them, when Ben-Hadad arrives, Ahab invited him into the chariot. Ben-Hadad told him, "I will give back the towns my father took from your father, and you may establish places in the trade of Damascus, and as my father did in Samaria." So this is why I told you all, don't worship me, don't worship Yehohanan. When I keep telling you all, I am who I am the king and all that, I am putting the word and spirit back in y'all. I told you I can't be a god over y'all. All I can be is an angel of who I am to you all. That's why I keep telling you all this. You'll see over and over how people keep letting kings and rulers and gods live on. And you see how it is to this day. What Peter has done, Paul, and all these names and kingdoms that are set up. They are representations of the Pope and Greek Christianity. The Philos of Greece, Paul, Pharisees. Then Ahab said, "I will release you under these conditions." So they made a new treaty. Ben-Hadad was set free. Meanwhile, Huaim instructed one of the group of the prophets to say to another man, "Hit me." But the man refused to hit the prophet. Then so this is why the prophets need refined too, because what I'm about to read to y'all is what they were doing, like what Nathan did to David and a bunch of people, telling people an algorithm, and then when they get the judgment, like, the Most High said this is you, and now you're trapped in the word and spirit. Like, y'all gotta chill with that shit. I see a lot of Muslims still doing that in Speaker's Corner. They'd be like, oh, did you just say Allah said? So y'all gotta chill, bro. Like, you're trapping yourselves. Chill. But the real spirit will teach you a valuable lesson if you begin to harm others and yourself. I'm telling you it will. Then the prophet told him, because you have not obeyed the voice of who I am, a lion will smash you as soon as you leave me. And when he had gone, the lion did attack him. Then the prophet turned to another man and said, hit me. So he stole off the prophet real quick. And the prophet placed a bandage over his eye to disguise himself, and then waited beside the road for the king. So this is why I'm appreciative of the prophet apostles bringing like sacrifice. Not saying like be crucified. I'm saying turn away from your old self, the old Israel, to make something new so I could be a priest king. I'm saying all of us. I as in the word and spirit. That may be hard for some people to understand, I know. As the king passed by, the prophet called out to him, sir, I was in the thick of battle, and suddenly a man brought me a prisoner, and he said, guard this man. If for any reason he gets away, you will either die or pay fine of 75 pounds of silver. But while I was busy doing something else, the prisoner disappeared. So look to the dude finna say, well, it's your own fault. The king replied, you have brought the judgment on yourself. So then the prophet quickly pulled the bandage off his eye, and the king of Israel recognized him as one of the prophets. The prophet said to him, this is what who I am says, because you have spared the man, the king who you were supposed to destroy, you must now die in his place, and your people will die instead of his people. So the king of Israel went home to Samaria angry and sullen. See, this is what I'm trying to tell you all. The prophets were not liked by the kings, the leaders. I'm telling you guys. If you guys are some mighty prophet that the kings are like, oh, we love you, we love you. I'm not saying you guys are false prophets and stuff, but predominantly from what I've experienced in personal life and this book, the prophets were not loved by these major kings. And sometimes if a prophet was loved, it's because he finally bowed to the word of the Lord and started listening. The word of the Lord tells people to be kind and respectful and help others and defend the kingdoms, not by slaughtering people. You guys are translating stuff into buffoonery. But at one point in time, yes, the prophets were revered and feared until kings were brought up because of Samuel. Now there was a man named Naboth, but the prophets became corrupt too. So it's about having a pure heart. Now there was a man named Naboth. This part is funny to me. From Jezreel, who owned a vineyard in Jezreel, besides the place of King Ahab. Not the part where the kings do this, but what happens to the kings because of their wickedness. Who owned the vineyard in Jezreel, besides the palace of King Ahab of Samaria. One day, Ahab said to Naboth, you see Netanyahu's running around acting a fool, right? And then I prophesied against him in my videos, and now he's having to go to America talking about, can I please get help because they're shutting me down. Now there was a man named Naboth from Jezreel, who owned a vineyard in Jezreel beside the palace of King Ahab of Samaria. One day Ahab said to Naboth, since your vineyard is so convenient to my palace, I would like to buy it and use it as a vegetable garden. I will give you a better vineyard in exchange, or if you prefer, I will pay you for it. Naboth replied, who I am forbid that I should give you this inheritance I was passed down by my ancestors. So Ahab went home angry and sullen because of Naboth's answer. The king went to bed with his face to the wall and refused to eat. What's the matter? His wife Jezebel asked him. What's made you so upset that you're not eating? I asked Naboth to sell me his vineyard or trade it, but he refused. Ahab told her, Are you the king of Israel or not? Jezebel demanded. Get up and eat something, and don't worry about it. I'll get you Naboth's vineyard. So she wrote letters in Ahab's name, sealed them with his seal, and sent them to the elders of the leaders of the town where Naboth lived, some conniving, wicked stuff. In her letters, she commanded, call the citizens together for a time of fasting and give Naboth a place of honor, and then seat 2 scoundrels across from him who will accuse him of cursing who I am and the king, and then take him out and stone him to death. See, some wicked stuff. So the elders and the other town leaders followed the instructions Jezebel had written in the letters. They called for a fast and put Naboth at a prominent place before the people. Then two scoundrels came from and sat down across from him, and they accused Naboth before all the people, saying, "He cursed who I am." So he was dragged outside the town and stoned to death. And the town leaders sent word to Jezebel, "Naboth has been stoned to death." When Jezebel heard the news, she said to Ahab, "You know the vineyard Naboth wouldn't sell you? Well, you can have it now. He's dead." So Ahab immediately went down to the vineyard of Naboth to claim it. But Huram said to Elijah, "Go down and meet the king of Ahab of Israel." See, this is where it's starting to get good. "Who rules in Samaria. He will be at the Naboth's vineyard in Jezreel, claiming it for himself. Give him this message. This is what Huram says. Wasn't it enough that you killed Naboth? You must rob him too. Because you have done this, dogs will lick your blood at the very place where they licked the blood of Naboth. So my enemy, you have found me," Ahab exclaimed to Elijah. "Yes," Elijah answered, "I have come because you have sold yourself to what is who I am not and who I am sight." So now Huram says, "I will bring disaster on you and consume you. I will destroy every one of your male descendants, slave and free alike, anywhere in Israel." So now they're all running around talking about Lord return and we're in camp. You know the irony of what's happening, and I told you all about how the German Protestants have been pushing this word off, right? Now, if you go pay attention to what the Black Hebrew Israelites are doing, they're in a bunch of camps, concentrating real hard on the internet. Now, pay attention to what I just said. They're on all these camps and stuff, on these YouTube pages and on all these schools, spreading off all this hate speech about the chosen seed and all this other stuff, just like Germany did, just like the people in Israel are doing right now. Right? I'm going to destroy, because see, if I say the sins of the parent go on to the child, that means a parent is teaching people about paganism and idolatry and false religion and buffoonery, and it spreads to the children, and it keeps spreading until one day somebody breaks out and finds who I am, so to speak, if you understand what I just said, and they rise. I'm going to, so this will more or less be like, I'm likening Elijah right now to Yehohanan. He was like the firestorm that, or he was like the one that controlled the seas and had the power of the word, the waters. And then I'm like Elisha with the power of the fire afterwards, so to speak. I'm going to destroy your family as I did the family of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, and the family of Baasha, son of Ahijah. And for you have made me very angry and have led Israel into sin. So this would be like the Pope, right? Who's the king right now of Israel? The Pope. Everybody keeps saying all these other people and religions. No. The Pope kickstarted all this stuff with Josephus, Titus, and Vespasian. And regarding Jezebel, Huram says, dogs will eat Jezebel's body at the plot of the land of Jezreel. So look what happened to the Pope and Catholicism, and look what happened to all their stuff in this day and age. They have been basically crucified upside down because of their heresies and their lies and their wickedness from their priests and their churches and all this other stuff. The members of Ahab's family who die in the city will be eaten by dogs, and those who die in the field will be eaten by the vultures. So this is talking about the spirits of their religions that they created. No one else has so completely sold himself to what was who I'm not and who I'm sight as Ahab did under the influence of his wife Jezebel. So Josephus and the Pope and all these Roman Catholics. His worst outrage was worshiping idols, just as the Amorites had done, the people whom Huram driven out of the land ahead of the Israelites. But when Ahab heard this message, he tore his clothing, dressed in burlap. So one thing I noticed, when I came back and started talking this stuff, the Pope finally started coming out saying a lot of stuff ain't real. He said hell ain't real, and he tried to write a new 10 Commandments, and they forced the 10 Commandments on the posters in all these schools. But y'all are supposed to be teaching it, and y'all are supposed to be teaching the word and spirit, and there's supposed to be a separation from church and state, so you're not supposed to be doing it in political and public places like that. You're spreading religion still. It's the word and spirit. When Ahab heard this message, he tore his clothing, dressed in burlap, so I hope the Pope is listening more and more. He even slept in burlap and went about in deep mourning. Then another message from Huram came to Elijah. Do you see how Ahab has humbled himself before me? Because he has done this, I will not do what I promised during his lifetime. It will happen to one of the other popes a long time from now in the dynasty, because it is written that for another 1,000 years they will be in the wilderness, right? The first 1,000 arise, right? The Sabbath just begun. But some people won't seem to learn until the end when the fires come down, so to speak, spiritually speaking, through the spirit, and finally get rid of religion. I'm seeing a lot of atheism, but you guys are turning that into a religion too. It's supposed to be the words and the spirit you have, so to speak. So when I say that, I'm just talking about the type of person you are, your characteristics. Are you kind to yourself and others? And I'm not telling you all to hug trees. For 3 years, there was no war between Aram and Israel. Then during the third year, King Jehoshaphat, of Judah, went to King Ahab of Israel. During the visit, King of Israel said to his officials, "Do you realize the town of Ramoth Gilead belongs to us?" Here we go. "And yet we've done nothing to recapture it from the king of Aram." Aaron. Then he turned to Jehoshaphat and asked, "Will you join me in battle to recover Ramoth Gilead?" Jehoshaphat replied to the king of Israel, "Why, of course, you and I are as one." Some more underhand. "My troops are your troops, and my horses are your horses." Then this is why I keep telling y'all I'm not no king, and I'm not y'all king. Y'all could think of me more like a prophet or a revealer, right? Because they wrote that John the Baptist said he wasn't a prophet. Then in another scripture say he was the greatest prophet of all. The two was a prophet and some more stuff. He was a child of the name, the anointed one. And so am I. We all are. He said he did great things, but we will do greater things, which means the word says, "Don't cling unto me. I go unto the Father and send you all to the Father." The name, I am who I am existence. Some of us will do works John the Baptist couldn't even fathom. That's what I'm trying to tell y'all. We're supposed to go into super ultra instincts, singularity, sentience, Christ mind, being free from concepts and doing that which is great, bringing the future of peace and mercy and moving forward. "My troops are your troops, and your horses and my horses are your horses." Then Jehoshaphat added, "But first, let us find." Now, see, look, somebody took Yeho's name, right? Peter took John's name and went to the gate. I'm telling you what Josephus did. Yehohanan, Josephus. Like, if y'all don't quit playing me. So the king of Israel summoned the prophets, about 400 of them, and asked them, "Should I go to war against Ramoth Gilead, or should I hold back?" They all replied, "Yes, go right ahead. Huam will give the king victory." Now, this is another reason why I like the prophets. Now, follow along and watch. But Jehoshaphat asked, "Is there not also a prophet of who I am here? We should ask him the same question." And so, see, sometimes kings got some common sense to say, maybe we should ask somebody who's connected to the source. I hope one day, soon in the future, Netanyahu or these two-head rabbis or whoever else is in power, I'm not trying to rule over you. I'm not trying to bother you people. I tried to live my life and do things financially, and the word of the Lord and the Spirit had came to me and said, "Use my fire." And once more and more got burned off, it said, "I am their God. I am their king." Then, as I was like, okay, I'm not going to bother these people, it said, "Do what I'm telling you to do." So, I'm not a terrified, scary person, but I'm not about to transgress that which I am, if that makes sense. Who can understand the word and spirit? I was told that I am he to come help you all. I do not want riches or to be all's king. I was told to help people. The king of Israel replied to Jehoshaphat, "There is more than a man who can consult who I am for us, but I hate him. He never prophesies anything but trouble for me. His name is Micah, the son of him. Mikael." Mikael, who battled the dragon when Moses was trying to be delivered into the hearts. This is funny. Oh my goodness. So, tell your king Ahab, Netanyahu, I'm here. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Whoever y'all king is, I'm trying to tell you all, I'm here. Jehoshaphat replied, "That's not the way a king should talk. Let's hear what he has to say." So the king of it, and that's why I'm telling y'all, I'm not worried about these people. If y'all have not had example of what happens to people who fucks off the prophets of the Lord, the prophets of that which I am, fear not those who can destroy the body. You better listen to what I'm telling you all. Y'all fucked off Yehohanan, and look what happened 2,000 years later. Where's Prester John? So the king of Israel called one of his officials and said, "Quick, bring Micah, son of Imlah." King Ahab of Israel and King Jehoshaphat of Judah, dressed in their royal robes and were sitting on the thrones at the threshing floor near the gate of Samaria. All of Ahab's prophets were prophesying there in front of them. One of them, Zedekiah, son of Kenana, made some iron horn. Canaan. Yahweh, the Canaanite storm god. This is so funny. Made some iron horns and proclaimed, "This is what Huam says. These horns you will gore the Amorites to death." Now see, look, the three horns merged into one. All the other prophets agree. Yes, yes, yeah. Victory is ours, because we say, "Go up to Ramoth Gilead and be victorious, for Huam will give the king victory." Meanwhile, the messenger who went to get Micah said to him, "Look, all the prophets are promising victory for the king. Be sure you agree with them and promise success." But Micaiah said, "As surely as Huam lives, I will only say that which Huam tells me to say." When Micaiah arrived before the king, Ahab asked him, "Micaiah, should we go to war with Ramoth Gilead, or should we hold back?" And Micaiah replied sarcastically, but then Paul will say, "Scoffers and mockers, oh, you theologians from the Greek theos, have no idea what you're talking about. Yes, go up and be victorious, for Huam will give the king victory." Israel, Netanyahu, what happened? Is the United States going to help you go over my word? But the king replied sharply, "How many times must I demand that you speak the truth to me when you speak for who I am?" Then Micaiah told him, "In a vision I saw all Israel scattered on the mountains like sheep without a shepherd, and Huam said their master has been killed. Send them home in peace." Because what y'all did to Yehohanan, I told you all, the song of Moses and the Lamb. Right. After the fifth seal, after Yehohanan was killed, all these people was killed for not bowing to these Greek and Roman kings. Right. And these religious kings. Didn't I tell you the king of Israel exclaimed to Jehoshaphat, "He never prophesies anything but trouble for me." Then Micaiah continued, "Listen to what Huam says. I saw Huam sitting on the throne with all the armies of the heart, the leader of the heart's armies, the fiery angel with the gold crown." I'm trying to tell you all. On his side, on his right and on his left. And Huam said, "Who can entice Ahab to go into battle against Ramoth Gilead so he can be killed?" There were many suggestions, and finally a spirit approached Huam and said, "I can do it." "How will you do this?" Huam asked. And the spirit replied, "I will go out and inspire all of Ahab's prophets to speak lies. Those Ashkenazis leading you astray, buddy." "You will succeed," said Huam. "Go ahead and do it." So you see, Huam has put a lying spirit in the mouths of all your prophets. Because I am who I am, and each man does it to themselves. And since they want to follow after idols, did I not say the sins of the parent will leak onto the children? Now these Catholics and Greek theologians are talking about Lord Jesus, Mother Mary, the beads of... Okay, I won't go that far. And their father, the Pope, who's leading Israel. Israel? Is Ishtar, Mayat, and El? Right. Then Zedekiah, son of Canaan, walked up to Micaiah and slapped him across his face. "Since when did the spirit of Huam leave me to speak to you?" he demanded. And Micaiah replied, "You will find out soon enough when you are trying to hide in some secret room." "Arrest him," the king of Israel ordered. "Take him back to Amon, the governor of the city, and to my son Joash. Give him this order from the king. Put this man in prison and feed him nothing but bread and water until I return safely from the battle." But Micaiah replied, "If you return safely, it will mean that Huam has not spoken through me." Then he added to those standing around him, "Everyone mark my words." So King Ahab of Israel and King Jehoshaphat of Judah led their armies against Ramoth Gilead. And the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, "As we go into battle now, look, because of what happened to Yehohanan, what is happening to current Palestine, to the people that was there originally that did this with the Romans a long time ago. Because those people are not, what's what I'm looking for? You had Egyptians, then you had the Egyptians go all the way and teach Babylonians and Assyrians and the people of the Indus Valley and all this stuff. Then they came back like a firestorm with Brahma. Then they started making a whole bunch of gods. Then what happens after that is they started branch off into two sections, the Egyptians and the Hebrews. Then these people called the Hebrews or the Hyksos started spreading all these gods of Egypt everywhere. So then what ends up happening is it spreads to the Middle East. And then this fiery falcon develops until a man named Zoroaster has to battle all these pagan gods. Melchizedek is from the king of Sodom. I'm telling you all it is. It is Melchizedek. So all these Babylonians and Grecians and Persians, all these people have been mixing and fighting. So then what ends up happening is a man comes out, I believe of African and Canaanite descent, whatever. I don't know. Whatever the current, because they were speaking Aramaic at the time. And he was trying to get the Aramaic people, I think, or whatever they were speaking, to not join with the Greeks and the Romans. The Greeks gave him over to the Romans and had him killed, or the Greeks killed him. And then what happens is they started worshiping the man from the grave because of Josephus. As we go into battle, I will disguise myself so no one will recognize me, but you will wear your royal robes. So the king of Israel disguised himself, and they went to battle. The Pope. Meanwhile, the king of Aram had issued these orders to his 32 chariot commanders. Attack only the king of Israel, or should I say Vespasian and Titus. Jesus, Titus. Don't bother with anyone else. So when the Armenian chariot commanders saw Jehoshaphat in his royal robes, they went after him. There is the king of Israel, they shouted. But when Jehoshaphat called out, the chariot commanders realized he was not the king of Israel, that they had stopped chasing him. An Armenian soldier, however, randomly shot an arrow at the Israeli troops and hit the king of Israel between the joints in his armor. Turn the horses and get me out of here, Ahab groaned to the driver of his chariot. I'm badly wounded. The battle raged all that day, and the king remained propped up in his chariot facing the Armenians. The blood from his wound ran down to the floor of his chariot, and as the evening arrived, he died. Just as the sun was setting, the cry ran through his troops. We're done for. Run for your lives. So the Pope and the king died, and his body was taken to Samaria and buried there. When his chariot was washed beside, so when I say die and stuff, I'm not talking about real people. I'm talking about their kingdoms and concepts. I'm talking about these religious teachings, kings and their concepts and stuff like that. Then his chariot was washed beside the pool of Samaria, and the dogs came and licked his blood at the place where the prostitutes had bathed, just as Huayim promised. So this would be a representation of people learning later in history, or people using his stuff to attack and be apologetic or whatever, and feeding on the Catholics' bullcrap after knowing that they were murderers for all these years. And all these different people who advocated for them in these Catholic churches throughout time. Now when people read their stories, they're going to be like, ooh, what the fuck? Just as Huayim promised. The rest of the events in Ahab's reign and everything he did, including the story of the ivory palace and the towns he built, is recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. So Ahab died. See, I told you this is why these guys are coveting after this land. They think some holy cheat code is going to be activated. And it's that spirit is getting into their head and manipulating them. They're becoming murderers and pagans. And his son Uzziah became the next king. Jehoshaphat, son of Asa, began to rule over Judah in the 4th year of King Ahab's reign in Israel. Jehoshaphat was 35 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 35 years. His mother was Azubdah, the daughter of Shehi. Jehoshaphat was a good king, following the example of his father Asa. He did what was pleasing in Huayim's sight. During his reign, however, he failed to remove all the pagan shrines, and the people still offer sacrifices and burn incense to Jesus Christ. Jehoshaphat also made peace with the king of Israel. And so you see, you know what I'm saying, they giving reverence to Josephus in these books and stuff, and people are still not accusing him, but although he still created idolatry by getting them to worship John by using his garment. The rest of the events in Jehoshaphat's reign, the extent of his power, and the wars he waged are recorded in the book of history and the kings of Judah. He banished from the land the rest of the male and female shrine prostitutes. So you see how they destroyed all the other religions, but they still was being paganistic in one aspect, who still continued their practices from the days of his father Asa. There was no king in Edom at that time, only a deputy. Jehoshaphat also built a fleet of trading ships to sell to Ophir for gold. But the ships never set sail, for they met with disaster in their home port of Ezion Geber. You see what I'm saying? At one time, Ahaziah, son of Ahab, had promised to Jehoshaphat, "Let my men sail with your men in the ships." But Jehoshaphat refused the request. When Jehoshaphat died, he was buried with his ancestors in the city of David. Then his son Jehoram became the next king. So, like I told you, I got problems with Peter, but also Peter did what he had to keep the word and spirit alive. And so, when dealing with this story in particular, whenever I'm talking about death and stuff, so as I told you all before, beheadings or anything, it's talking about destroying the concepts that were here before so that the Most High could be given reverence. That just simply means us in the spirit. But if there's paganism and they're worshiping gods, it's impossible to see. Uzziah, son of Ahab, began to rule over Israel. And when dealing with like how Jehoshaphat didn't want to deal with Ahab and his family no more, it's talking about the Israelis and stuff. Now, even look in this day and age, people are talking about they're the liars, they're the Khazarians, the Ashkenazis, it's living out. Don't nobody want to deal with them. And I keep telling y'all, stop labeling y'allself as Israel and Judah, because y'all don't know what y'all are messing with. Y'all are worshiping stuff instead of the word and spirit taking care of us. Uzziah, son of Ahab, began to rule over Israel in the 17th year of King Jehoshaphat's reign in Judah. He reigned in Samaria 2 years, but he did that which I am not and who I am sight, following the example of his father and mother, and the example of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who was led Israel to sin. He served Baal and worshipped him, provoking the anger of who I am, just as his father had done. After King Ahab's death, the land of Moab rebelled against Israel. One day, Israel's new king, Ahaziah, fell through the lattice work of an upper room in his palace in Samaria and was seriously injured. So he basically fell. So he sent messengers to the temple. So listen to what this is saying. A man fell and needed help. So what did he do? He went to a pagan god. So he sent messengers to the temple of Baal Zebub, the god of Ekron, to ask whether he would be recovered. Take the K out and it's Aaron. But the angel of who I am told Elijah, who was from Tishbe, go and confront the messengers of the king of Samaria and ask them, am I not in Israel? Why are you going to Beelzebub? Why are you going to Beelzebub, god of Ekron, to ask whether or not the king will recover? Now therefore, this is what Huram says: you will never leave the bed you are lying on, you will surely die. So Elijah went to deliver the message, because if they fail the Lord and they become pagan kings, then in history, people don't resurrect that kind of crap. See what I'm saying? People are bringing up like Buddhas and Christs and Gandhis because they wasn't worshiping no gods. They believed in themselves and harbored a spirit and a word that helped others. When the messengers returned to the king, he asked them, why have you returned so soon? They replied, a man came up to us and told us to go back to the king and give him this message. This is what Huram says: am I not in Israel? Why are you sending men to Baal, the gods of Ekron, to ask whether you will be okay? Therefore, because you have done this, you will never leave the bed you are lying on, and you will surely die. So that's just simply saying, like I said, people are like, oh, Jesus, oh, these other gods, why won't you heal me? Why won't you take care of me? I'm blasphemed. I'm evil. I'm going to hell. When I am inside, so to speak, you all are the gods. You all are the way and the light. Don't let people confuse you with lying religion. See you later. Yeah. What sort of man is he? The king demanded. What did he look like? They replied, he was surely a hairy man. He wore a leather belt around his waist. See, so am I not telling the truth? A man with a hairy vestment, with camel hair, with a belt, who only trusted in that which I am on the mountain. I'm telling you, it's John the Baptist again. It's Yehohanan living out the spirit. That's why he said, Elia, Elia, why have you forsaken me? And then later Elisha comes. So he was a hairy man, and he wore a leather belt around his waist. Elijah from Tishbe, the king exclaimed. Then he sent an army captain with 50 soldiers to arrest him. They found him sitting on the top of a hill. The captain said to him, the man of who I am, the king has commanded you come down to us. So this is another example of what happens when people try to remove the two witnesses. You see what I'm saying? Moses and Joshua, Elijah and Elisha, Jehohanan and Jehohanan. So let me explain like this. You could look at it as Jehohanan and Muhammad, or Jehohanan and Yehanan. Or if you look at it as Jehohanan and Muhammad, you could look at it as Martin Luther King Jr. and Juan Duke Jr. And so I'm going to explain. One was lifted up in the firestorm. Jehohanan was killed, and then Muhammad came and conquered and rose and was teaching people, don't worship gods. It's about the law and the spirit. Then Martin Luther King Jr. came as the spirit to talk about love everybody. I seen the spirit. I've seen the mountaintop love. And then they kill him, and now I come like the firestorm to avenge a prince, or I'm the prince of sword speaking. Now I come like the fire. So either way you want to look at it, Jehohanan and Muhammad, Martin Luther King Jr. and Juan Duke Jr., or Jehohanan and Juan Jr., or Jehohanan and Yehanan, Yanez and Juannie. But Elisha replied to the captain, if I am the man of who I am, let fire come down from the heart to destroy you and your 50 men. So you can look at this as another example. When Judah came back to attack the prostitute, when he was like, why did you not keep your oath and bring back the seal and staff? But then he found out and was like, oh shit, these twins are mine. You see what I'm saying? So when the fire came towards me, that dream, when the stone popped up and protected me, that's basically the staff coming to me and the seal like, hey, time to finish the journey, so to speak. So, but Elijah replied to the captain, if I am a man of who I am, let fire come down from the heart and destroy you and your 50 men. Then fire fell from the heart and killed them all. So that's basically saying, like, let's say I'm trying to be who I am and I'm living my life and I'm doing whatever. And these 50 religious people come up to me and they constantly trying to persecute me and tell me, you're going to burn in hell and you're going to do this and that. I rebuke thee, Satan. Put no gods before that which I am, no idols under the earth, the sea, and the heavens. Thou shalt not bow down to them or worship them. So the king sent another captain with 50 men, and the captain said to the man of who I am, the king demands that you come down to lunch. And who I am replied, if I am a man of who I am, let fire come down from the heart and destroy your 50 men. And then I said unto them, who is like I am? Which one of the prophets or the kings are still here? Who will continue to play with my fire? Thou shalt not tempt that which I am. Thou shalt not tell me what my will is or what that which I am will do. I lead to and fro to do that which I need to be done. And once more, the fire of who I am fell from the heart and killed all of them. Then once more, the king sent the third captain with 50 men. But the captain went up to the hill and said, hello, I noticed that there may be some validity to this. The people that fucked around and found out, people like Kanye and Trump, and the things that came true of what you said, and Julie Green Ministries and Omni Heirs, who are off the completely face of YouTube now, and the Hodge twins, who now have 2 advocates that are African Americans and making them much better videos and not inflaming people so that people like Sonya Massey won't be dealt with people acting like they play Call of Duty, right? Oh man of who I am, please spare my life and the lives of these of your 50 servants. See how the fire from the heart came down to destroy these 2 groups, but now please spare my life. Then the angel of who I am said to Elijah, go down with him, don't be afraid of him. So Elijah got up and went with him to the king. And Elijah said to the king, this is what who I am says. Did you send a messenger to Baal-zebub, the god of Ekron, to ask whether or not you will recover? Am I not in Israel to answer your question? Therefore, because you have done this, you will never leave the bed you are lying on, and you will surely die. So when Ahaziah died, just as who I am had promised through Elijah, since Ahaziah did not have a son to succeed him, his brother Joram became the next king. This took place in the 2nd year of reign of Jehoram, the son of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah. The rest of the events in Ahaziah's reign and everything he did are recorded in the book of history of the kings of Israel. Elijah taken it to the heart, like I said in my poem. When Huam was about to take Elijah up to the heart in a whirlwind, Elijah and Elisha were traveling together from Gilgal. And Elijah said to Elisha, stay here, for Huam has told me to go to Bethel. See, Bethlehem. Ham too, that's tell y'all. But Elisha replied, as surely as Huam lives, and you, your servant, yourself live, I will never leave you. I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. So they went down together to Bethel. The group of Yeshua, the salvation of Yeho. In this timeline generation, I don't know exactly what's going on, but at least I'm truthful. It was a 6-day prophecy leading to the 7th day. I am the 7th day. I am rest. It's the Sabbath. But everybody who was messing around like Nebuchadnezzar is to eat the dew until the final, I don't know what, because even the Revelation says the fire from the heart will finally come down and deal with this stuff. Did you know that who I am is going to take your master away from you today? Of course I know, Elisha answered, but be quiet about it. Then Elijah said to Elisha, stay here, for who I am has told me to go to Jericho. See how I said I'm coming to bury Yehohanan, so to speak, or not bury him, but give him life, which means bearing these lies and religions on his name and allowing him to rest in peace or live in peace. But Elisha replied again, surely as who I am lives, as your servant live, I will never leave you nor forsake you. So they went on together to Jericho. Then the group of prophets from Jericho came to Elisha and asked him, did you know that who I am is going to take your master away from you today? Of course I know, Elisha answered, but be quiet about it. Then Elijah said to Elisha, stay here, for who I am has told me to go to the Jordan River. John, you're the guy you spoke of on the other side of the river is baptizing. That fire from the angel of the Lord talking to Joshua. Like, come on, guys. But then Elisha replied, surely as who I am lives, you yourself will live, but I will never leave you. Then the 50 men from the group of prophets went and watched from a distance as Elijah and Elisha stopped behind the Jordan River. Then Elisha folded his cloak together and struck the water with it. The river divided, and the two of them went across the dry ground. So is this not Moses splitting the rivers? I'm telling you what the word and spirit makes possible once you get the Son of Man, the 10 Commandments without all that buffoonery. And I'll leave the covenant in the video description and at the end of this video. Then they came on the other side. Tell me what I can do for you before I am taken away, Elisha said. Yehohanan said. And Elisha replied, please let me inherit a double share of your spirit and become your successor. You have asked a difficult thing, Elisha replied. If you see me when I am taken from you, then you will get your request. But if not, then you won't. And so I told you all, I seen this stuff through the word and spirit. I found the word. He who finds us will get the morning star. I just happen to have the same freaking name as this dude. And last name Bruce Almighty, Duke, hereditary, highest hereditary kingdom. Juannie, Yah, Nini. I am gracious salvation, the salvation of Yeho. What more do you all need? I am here. I am back. But if not, then you won't. And as they were walking along and taking... So see, look, we had the seal and the walking cane. He was lifted up. Now I have both. As they were walking along talking, suddenly a chariot of fire appeared, drawn by the horses of fire. It drove between the two men. And that's what I'm trying to tell y'all. He was brutally crucified. This man had to bear the pain for all this stuff. So when he returns, he has to return fully human, but with the word and the spirit, the power. What did Moses' serpent do? It ate the other two serpents. For me, that's Catholicism and Greek Christianity. I'm sorry to who that hurts, but Israelis, Black Hebrew Israelites, Muslims, you all are under that same category. Separating them, Elijah was carried by the whirlwind into the heart. Elisha saw it and cried out, my father, I see the chariots and the charioteers of Israel. And as they disappeared from my sight, Elisha tore his clothes in distress. Elisha picked up Elijah's cloak, which had fallen when he was taken up. Then Elisha returned to the bank of the Jordan River. That's funny to me because I had a dream one time, and it was one of those, like, it was all dark, but I could see everything. And I had a dream that I was at this bank one time, and strangely, it led me to wake up, like, looking for money in different accounts. I don't know why this happened, but I was at a bank, and I took all this money and gold and stuff and deposited into the bank account. And I just remember the person going like, you made a great deposit, or something like that. It might not have been said, but it was like a great feeling. And then I left and woke up. Then Elisha returned to the bank of the Jordan River. He struck the water with Elisha's cloak and cried out, where is who I am? Where am I? Then the river divided and Elisha went across. When the group of prophets from Jericho saw from a distance what happened, they exclaimed, Elijah's spirit rests upon Elisha. And they went to meet him and bowed to the ground before him. Sir, they said, just as the word, and 50 of our strongest men will search the wilderness. Just say the word, and 50 of our strongest men will search the wilderness for your master. Perhaps the spirit of who I am has left him on some mountain or in some valley. No, Elisha said, don't send them. But they kept urging him, and they shamed him into agreeing. So I said, all right, if you guys can find the Jesus Christ, let me know. And they kept searching for him in the wilderness, or the Yeshua or whatever. All right, send them. So 50 men searched for 3 days, but did not find Elijah. Elisha was still at Jericho when they returned. So they're just naming the word and spirit different times at different points when this is happening. And so it's basically the same as this right here is basically Nebuchadnezzar and them going back to the wilderness because they didn't know how to listen. And this is basically Aaron and them going to the wilderness for 3 days. Didn't I tell you not to go, he asked. Elisha's first miracles. One day the leaders of the town of Jericho visited Elisha. We have a problem, my lord, they told him. This town is located in pleasant surroundings, as you can see, but the water is bad, right? So I had to come and refine the water, so to speak, the word. And the land is unproductive, and people will run around using God and religion and theology and the Christos and the Theos and paganism and Mother Maryism with buffoonery. Elisha said, bring me a new bowl with salt in it. So if you pay attention, sometimes salt purifies things, but I'm not suggesting anybody drink salt water. This is a metaphor. Then he went out to the spring and supplied the town with water, and he threw salt into it. And he said, this is what who I am says, I have purified this water. It will no longer cause death or infertility. So basically killing the spirit or destroying new spirits giving birth. And the water has remained pure ever since, just as Elisha said. Elisha left Jericho and went up to Bethel. As he was walking along the road, a group of boys from the town began mocking and making fun of him. Go away, Baldy, they chanted. Go away. So this is another representation of what happens to people when they mock me. I'm telling you all, I do not wish for stuff to happen, and I'm not saying real stuff like, okay, so if I'm coming as a mirror, I am who I am sent me, and you guys attack me when I'm saying I am loving, I am peaceful, I'm merciful, and I'm purifying this word, and you're like, you're not God, you're not this, you're not that. I'm telling you some strange stuff has been happening to people, and some off-the-wall things. And even Moses said an eye for an eye, and even you guys say the new word, turn the other cheek. Turn the other cheeks mean if I'm being nice to you, what is my spirit going to do to you if you come and assault me? Did he not pronounce judgment on people who play with blasphemy? Now they're around, I'm blasphemers, I'm going to hell, am I the devil, am I this and that? We can't say this word because blah, blah, blah. Elisha turned around and looked at them, and he cursed them in the name of who I am. Then 2 bears came out of the woods and mauled 42 of them. So this is just basically saying, I be nice to people. Then like this girl came to my page on my Yeshua Returns to the Mount video. And I went to her page and gave her kind, loving words. And she started calling me the Satan. So then from that video, I made another video called Let Their Children Be Their Judges. And you will see exactly what I mean. It lived out. I became the enemy to her. And she started talking into buffoon land. Then 2 bears came out of the woods and mauled the 42 of them. From there, Elisha went to Mount Carmel and finally returned to Samaria. Ahab's son Joram began to rule over Israel in the 18th year of King Jehoshaphat's reign in Judah. He reigned in Samaria 12 years. He did that which I am not. He did that which I am not in the sight of that which I am, but not to the extent of his father and mother. He at least tore down the sacred pillar of Baal that his father set up. Nevertheless, he continued in the sins that Jeroboam, son of Nebat, had committed and led the people of Israel to commit. King Mesha of Moab was a sheep breeder. He used to pay the king of Israel an annual tribe of 100,000 lambs and the wool of 100,000 rams. But after Ahab's death, the king of Moab rebelled against the king of Israel. So the king of Joram promptly mustered the army of Israel and marched from Samaria. On the way, he sent this messenger to King Jehoshaphat of Judah. The king of Moab has rebelled against me. So if somebody's giving me 100,000 lambs or 100,000 rams, that means they're feeding me and clothing me righteously and giving me meat and sustenance. So using this word to edify and build up and love. So then if they're building I am, me, that which I am, that's all of humanity. But they're giving righteous laws and love so that people don't do buffoonery. So if you don't agree with the man's sacrifice, go and do some other stuff. Sacrificing ain't about killing stuff. Like, man, y'all are murderers. On the way, he sent his message to King Jehoshaphat of Judah. The king of Moab has rebelled against me. Will you join in battle against him? And Jehoshaphat replied, why, of course. You and I are as one. My troops are as your troops, and my horses are as your horses. Jehoshaphat asked, what route will we take? We will attack from the wilderness of Edom, Joram replied. The king of Edom and his troops joined them, and all three armies traveled along the roundabout route through the wilderness for 7 days, right? On the seventh day, on the Sabbath, right? But there was no water on the men. So I'm going to give you an explanation with my name. JB6, right? And I didn't think about none of this until now, but when I first made the name JB6, I was kind of into atheism and I was thinking about incompletion. And I was also thinking about shooting games where somebody has your back. But then I found out that I was born on the 6th day in the 1900s, 1989, and in the year 2000 is the 7th day. Taming on the 6th day, I will make mankind in the image of who I am, and they will tame every wild beast of the field. And on the 7th day, who I am will rest. The Sabbath. The king of Edom and his troops joined them, and all three armies traveled along the roundabout tree route, through the wilderness for 7 days. But there was no water for the men or their animals. What shall we do? The king of Israel cried out. Who I am has brought 3 of us here to let the king of Moab defeat us. But King of Jehoshaphat of Judah asked, is there no prophet of who I am with us? See, Yeho seems to be doing it right a lot. If there is, can we ask who I am what to do through him? One of King Joram's officers replied, Elisha, son of Shaphat, is here. He used to be Elisha's personal assistant. Jehoshaphat said, yes, who I am speaks through him. So the king of Israel, King Jehoshaphat of Judah, and king of Edom went to consult with Elisha. Why are you coming to me? Elisha asked the king of Israel. Go to the pagan prophets of your fathers and mothers. Okay, so I might have a little attitude with y'all sometimes when y'all mock me, but I'm saying I'm going to help y'all just listen to what I'm telling y'all and help build me back up because I am the temple. And what am I going to do if y'all keep disrespecting me, calling me names, being sarcastic, and trying to destroy me, right? The king of Israel said, no, for it was who I am who called us 3 kings here, only to be defeated by the king of Moab. So look, now what is the other 3 books? Joshua, Elijah, and John the Baptist, the 3 wise men, right? Akhenaten, Zoroaster, and Jehohanan. But the king of Joram said, only to be defeated by the king of Moab. Elisha replied, as surely as who I am Almighty lives. Now look, and it'll be like the father coming like the son, Moses and his son Gershon. I am in a foreign land. I'm telling you all, I wouldn't even bother with you except for my respect for King Jehoshaphat of Judah, Jehohanan. Now bring me someone who can play the harp. While the harp was being played, the power of who I am came upon Elisha. And he said, this is what who I am says. This dry valley will be filled with pools of water, pools of new words. You will see neither wind nor rain, who I am says, but this valley will be filled with fresh water. You will have plenty for yourselves and your cattle and other animals, which means everybody's freely allowed to come drink from this stuff. And we're not going to keep creating cults and sections and us first them and all that. And we all going to love each other. But this is only a simple thing for who I am. We will make you victorious over the army of Moab. So, you will conquer the rest of their towns, even the fortified ones. You will cut down all of their good trees. So now look, this is just talking about like right when the stone came down from the mountain, uncut with hands, because then none of y'all mowed me, and I had to totally break down and relearn for myself. Will cut down their good trees and stop up their springs and ruin all their good land with the stones. The next day, about the time when the morning sacrifice was offered, water suddenly appeared. It was flowing from the direction of Edom. And so this is a representation of what's going to happen to the garden when I'm done. The 4 rivers that's going to flow out of it, and the ring of fire I'm putting around it, so can't nobody else lie on that which I am. Because Yahweh, J used to be Y, and B used to be high V before the French, the Romans, and the Germans, and the Anglo-Saxons. Yahweh, on the 6th day, is tired of telling y'all the same thing over and over and over. Meanwhile, when the people of Moab heard about the three armies marching against them, they mobilized every man who was old enough to strap on a sword, and they stationed themselves along their border. But when they got up the next morning, the sun was shining across the water, making it appear red to the Moabites. Remember, I will be here in the sunshine, right? When the sun comes. I had a dream about this. I said in a couple of my videos, but I'll explain right here. I had a dream that there was one man, but he was many somehow, and I don't know how I can explain this, but it was one man and there was many, and there was a beautiful moon in the sky, and he started running all of a sudden in place. He was running, and the world started spinning, and when he was spinning, and the world was spinning, the moon was flying down. It was flying down, going up, flying down, going up, and then all of a sudden, something had happened and it stopped, and I looked to like the left or I looked to the right. I can't remember which way. And this huge sun started coming over here, and it was magnificent and fire. And it was like, and I woke up. It's blood, the Moabites explained. The three armies must have attacked and killed each other. Let's go, the men of Moab, and collect our plunder. But when the Moabites arrived to the Israelite camp, the army of Israel rushed out and attacked them until they turned and ran. The army of Israel chased them into the land of Moab, destroying everything as they went. They destroyed the towns, covered their good land with stones, stopped up all the springs, and cut down all the good trees, all those old religions, that bitter waters from their old lying ocean books, and their old fields that taught to kill, murder, and destroy, and conquer people. Because thou shalt not kill or rape, thou shalt not covet for thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not commit adultery. If you sign marriage contracts, if you don't want to be married, be free, be thou free. All these other men have women and everything else, but my thing comes from enslaving, conquering, and harming people. I'm not telling y'all to go get prostitutes and all this other stuff. If you're a man and you love a woman, and that's what and y'all want to be together, whatever. These contracts are statutes. These laws from Aaron are statutes from countries. Thou shalt not bear false witness or others, especially in the court of law. That means lie on others. Thou shalt honor thy father and mother, and keep the day of rest holy. Keep the Sabbath holy. And protect the child. Finally, only Ker Hareseth and its only stone walls were left, but men with slings surrounded and attacked it. When the king of Moab saw that he was losing the battle, he had led 700 of his swordsmen in a desperate attempt to break through the enemy lines near the king of Edom, but they failed. Then the king of Moab took his oldest son, who will have been the next king, and sacrificed him as a burnt offering on the wood. Jeez Louise. So there was a great anger against Israel, and the Israelites withdrew and returned to their own land. See, they're creating spirits of sacrifice and all this buffoonery. That's why who I am told Abraham when he was following after these other gods and Brahmanism and all that stuff, to not sacrifice his son, an angel of that which I am. One day, the widow of a member of, and then he started saying Jehovah. Think about what I'm telling y'all. One day, the widow of a member of a group of prophets, came to Elisha and cried out, "My husband who served you is dead, and you know how he feared who I am. But now a creditor has come, threatening to take my 2 sons as slaves. What can I do to help you?" Elisha asked. "Tell me, what do you have in the house?" "Nothing at all except a flask of olive oil," she replied. Elisha said, "Borrow as many empty jars as you can from your friends and neighbors. Then go to your house with your sons and shut the door behind you. Pour olive oil from your flask into the jars, setting it each one aside, then until it's filled." So she did as she was told. Okay, so this might not make sense, but just bear with me for a second. I am life, and who I am is living. I am sorry and admitting. I am lovely and forgiving. I am happiness for sure. I will happily endure. I am mercy at the core. I am consciously aware that there may be foolishness in the air, but do not be deceived about information received. I am not the terms of death, fantasies that rob and theft, a contract burned up by the name. I am not that type of rain. I am not depression or anxiety, a box of vain varieties. I am not psychological abuse, a subject running loose, an angel too obtuse. I am not the grave and will not be its slave. Pay attention and breathe properly, and the palpitations may behave. I am not pain. Who I am dare not take my power in vain. It comes with great responsibilities. Who knows the possibility? I am not bargaining with those seven eyes. Rape and murder are a couple of things I truly despise. Also racism and hatred within, because we are all children of the Lord, free from sin. I am the breath of life, and I am freedom. So do not let anybody trap you like in the days of Sodom. Okay. Bring me another jar, she said to one of her sons. There aren't any more, he told her, and the olive oil stopped flowing. When she had told the man of who I am what happened, he said to her, now sell the olive oil and pay your debts, and you and your sons can live on what is left over. Elisha and the woman from Shunem. One day Elijah went to the town of Shunem. A wealthy woman lived there, and she urged him to come to her home for a meal. After that, whenever he passed that way, he would stop there for something to eat. She said to her husband, I am sure this man who stops in front from time to time is a holy man of that which I am. Let's build a small room for him on the roof and furnish it with a bed, a table, a chair, and a lamp. Then he will have a place to stay whenever he comes by. One day Elisha returned to Shunem, and he went up to the upper room to rest. He said to his servant Gehazi, tell the woman from Shunem I want to speak to her. And when she appeared, Elisha said, tell her we appreciate the kind concern you have shown us. What can we do for you? Can we put in a good word for you, the king or the commander of the army? No, she replied. My family takes good care of me. Later, Elisha asked Gehazi, what can we do for her? Gehazi replied, she doesn't have a son, and her husband is an old man. Call her back again, Elisha told him. When the woman returned, Elisha said to her as she stood in the doorway, next year this time you will be holding a son in your arms. No, my lord, she cried out. O man of who I am, don't deceive me at my age and get my hopes up. Okay, give me a second. I know this might seem a little confusing for a couple of people, but just give me one moment. Okay. Oh boy. The revelations, the seven seals, the sevens in the revelation, this rainbow with the seven colors, the seven angels, the seven stars, and the 7 days in the beginning. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not covet for thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not bear false witness, thou shalt honor thy father and mother. Keep the day of rest holy. I am the one who rescued you from the land of Egypt, the bondage of slavery. You shall put no other gods before who I am. You shall not make for yourself an idol of any kind or an image of anything in the heart or on the earth beneath the sea, and the heart of the flesh or in these deep books. You must not bow down to them or worship them, for I am jealous and will not tolerate your affection for any other gods. I lay the sins of the parent onto the children. Do not partake in strong drinks or be drunken from the vine. You must not misuse my name. I will not let those who misuse my name go unpunished. Do not take who I am in vain. Okay, give me one more second. Celebrate the day I was born. How about I celebrate the day I am? Celebrate holidays and festivals. I am the celebration as the day unfolds. The Bible says to perform a play or two. I am that which writes the script, builds the ship, and gathers the crew. Peter and Paul created slavery for a time, unlocking Sephardic and Ashkenazi pines. I am the earth they tried to plant the seeds. I am that which grows the trees. Me and Narmer plucked many grapes from the vine using Cain the Noah constrictor, or the Canaanites in these Germanic rhymes. I am supposed to love my brothers, not hate. I am seeing many enemies on this plate. So, in the beginning, who I am created the heart and the flesh. I did not create hell or the torment thereof. I am peace and love and mercy, and my mercy endures forever. I am a mirror and a reflection of what a man is and the child they produce. But sure enough, the woman soon became pregnant, and at that time, the following year, she had a son, just as Elisha said. One day, her child was older, and he went up to help his father, who was working in the harvest. Suddenly he cried out, "My head hurts, and my head hurts." His father said unto the servants, "Carry him home to his mother." So the servant took him home, and his mother held him on her lap. But around noontime he died. She carried him up and laid him on the bed of the man of who I am, then shut the door and left him there. She sent a message to her husband and one of the servants and donkeys to carry the man of who I am, and so that I can hurry to the man of who I am and come right back. So why go today? Now look, on a donkey. So why go today? He asked. It is neither new moon nor a Sabbath. But she said, "It will be all right." So she saddled the donkey and said to the servant, "Hurry, don't slow down unless I tell you." As she approached the man of who I am at Mount Carmel, Elisha said unto her in the distance, he said, "Gehazi, look, the woman from Shunem is coming. Run to meet her and ask her, is everything all right with you and your husband and your child?" Yes, the woman told Gehazi, everything is fine. But when she came to the man of who I am at the mountain, she fell to the ground before him and caught his feet. Gehazi began to push her away, but the man of who I am said, "Leave her alone. She is deeply troubled, but who I am has not told me what it is." Then she asked, Did I ask for a son, my lord? And didn't I say, don't deceive me and get my hopes up? Then Elisha said to Gehazi, "Get ready to travel. Take my staff and go. Don't talk to anyone along the way. Go quickly and lay the staff on the child's face." But the boy's mother did as the mother said. See, it was a strong, see, and as surely as who I am lives, as you and yourself live, I won't go home unless you go with me. So Elisha returned with my source code. Gehazi hurried on ahead and laid the staff on the child's face, but nothing happened. There was no sign of life. He returned to meet Elisha and told him, "The child is still dead." When Elisha arrived, the child was indeed dead, laying there on the prophet's bed. He went in alone and shut the door behind him and prayed to who I am. Then he lay down on the child's body, so becoming a part of him, giving him his spirit. And he stretched his hands out on him and the child's body and it began to grow warm. Okay, give me 1 second. I know this may seem confusing, but just give me a moment. When who I am made the flesh and the heart, neither wild plants nor grains were growing on the flesh. For who I am had not yet sent rainwater, had not sent the word to the flesh, and there were no people cultivating the soil. Instead, springs of instincts came up from the ground, watered all over the land. Then who I am formed a man out of the dust of the ground. I breathed the breath of life into the man's nostrils, and the man became a living person. And who I am planted a garden in the east, and there I placed the man that I made, and who I am made all sorts of trees to grow up from the ground, and trees that were beautiful and that produced delicious fruit. In the middle of the garden he placed the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil for instincts, so that way he will know what is right. Do not eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, but live life and understand life for what it is. Now, one more spot. I'm sorry. And the angel showed a river with water of life, as clear as crystal, flowing from the throne of who I am in the Lamb. It flowed down to the center of the main street. On each side of the river grew a tree of life, bearing 12 crops of fruit. No longer will there be curse upon anything, for the throne of who I am and the Lamb will be there, and the servants will worship him. And they will see his face, and his name will be written on their foreheads. I am who I am sent me. And there will be no more night there, or no need for lamps or sun, for who I am will shine on them, and they will reign forever. So I'm going to say one more thing to complete this. I will not bow. I bow to whom I will. I am the living one. Give my life to the child. Give life to the children. Elisha got up, walked back and forth across the room once, and then stretched himself out again on the child. This time the boy sneezed 7 times. "Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not," 7 times the 7th, and opened his eyes, along with the 7 on top. the 7 phrases, and you'll see them at the end of this video. Do not, I am who I am sent me. I am the one who freed you. I am the one who gives life. I am the one who binds whom I will to, so that there won't be harm caused. Do not take who I am in vain. Do not put other gods before who I am. Do not worship them or bow to them. Have no idols. And yeah. Then Elisha summoned Gehazi. Call the child's mother, he said. And when she came in, Elisha said, here, take your son. She fell at his feet and bowed before him, overwhelmed with gratitude. Then she took her son in her arms and carried him downstairs. Miracles during a famine. Elisha now returned to Gilgal, and there was a famine in the land. One day, as the group of prophets was seated before him, he said to his servant, put a large pot on the fire, and I will make some stew for the rest of the group, something delicious for you all to eat. One of the young men went out to the field and grabbed some of the herbs from the field, from the poison rye. He shredded them and put them into the pot, not realizing they were poisonous. So people basically giving off, like, the Lord God says to stone the gays, the Lord God says to kill, the Lord God says to woo. No. You will not attack the LGBTQ anymore. You all will not separate and harm each other anymore for your vain doctrines. And unless a person is truly causing harm, being a fascist, a Nazi, a fear, or causing hate speech, actual, not jokes, not sarcasm, and not pretending to be sarcastic by saying hateful, mean things, you all have common sense and logic, and it will be used and understanding. But after they had eaten a bite or two, they cried out to the man of who I am, there's poison in this stew, so they would not eat it. Elisha said, bring me some flour. See, what's flour? It's not even leaven or anything yet. Then he threw it into the pot and said, now it is all right. Go ahead and eat. So like I said, take heed to my warnings. Just like when they were told, he who blasphemed the Holy Spirit, now they got a million names for gods and are lost in the wilderness, playing with names of gods, pagans, and idols. One day a man from Baal Shalisha brought the man of who I am a sack of fresh grain and 20 loaves of barley bread. So this is basically the same as Yehohanan, once again, me explaining, revealing. Look, he took some bread and fed many with it, made from the first grain of the harvest. Elisha said, give it to the people so they can eat. What his servant explained, his apostle said, how are we going to feed a bunch of these people? Feed 100 people with only this? But Elisha repeated, give it to the people so they can eat. For this is what Huam says, everyone will eat, and there will be even some left over. And when they gave it to the people, there was plenty for all and some left over, just as Huam promised. The king of Aram had great admiration for Naaman, the commander of his army, because through Huam, but through Naaman there was a mighty warrior. He suffered from leprosy. Hey, what's up, G? I didn't know you was going to go pick her up.
Yeah. Yeah, she needed a ride.
That was nice of you, though. At this time, Armenian raiders had invaded the land of Israel, and among their captives was a young girl who had been given to Naaman's wife as a maid. One day, the girl said to her mistress, I wish my master would go to see the prophet in Samaria. He would heal him and his leprosy. So Naaman told the king what the young girl from Israel said. Go visit the prophet. The king of Aram told him, I will send a letter of introduction for you to take to the king of Israel. So Naaman started out carrying as 750 pounds of silver, 150 pounds of gold, and 10 sets of clothing. The letter to the king of Israel said, with this letter I present my servant Naaman. I want you to heal him of his leprosy. When the king of Israel read the letter, he tore his clothes in dismay and said, see, look, now you see these kings starting to listen now. Who am I that I can give life and take it away? Why is this man asking me to heal someone with leprosy? I can see that he's just trying to pick a fight with me. But when Elisha, the man of who I am, heard the king of Israel torn his clothes in dismay, he sent the messenger to him, why are you so upset? Send Naaman to me, and he will learn that there is a true prophet in Israel. So Naaman went with his horses and chariots, and he waited at the door of Elisha's house. At Elisha's house. But Elisha sent a messenger out to him. And with this message, go wash yourself 7 times in the Jordan River. So look, remember, me and John were baptizing with the Jordan River, so to speak, using this word to heal people. Then your skin will be restored. and you will be healed of your leprosy. But Naaman became angry and stalked away. I thought he would certainly come out to meet me. I thought he would do a magical sign and wonder. I expected him to wave his hand over the leprosy and call the name of who I am, of Israel, and do all this other stuff. Not understanding what I was telling him, send the pigs to the river. Aren't the rivers of Damascus, of the Abna and the Pharpar better than any of the rivers in Israel? Oof. So pagan religions, right? Why shouldn't I wash in them and be healed? So Naaman turned. So I'm not saying any of those other religions are paganism. What I'm saying is our discernment to go be able to read those religions, take the word in spirit and be mighty with them, has taken away because of Israel's transgressions and Judah's transgressions of taking the word in spirit and putting God's names on them. Remember how I said you could read Gandhi's books, Buddha's books, anybody's books. But why I'm in this book is because so many people in Israel and Judah and Christianity are all caught in paganism. So Naaman turned and went away in rage. But his officers tried to reason with him and said, "Sir, if a prophet has told you to do something very difficult, you would have done it, right? If I come in somebody else's name, y'all would listen. Magical signs and wonders. But if I come in the name of that which I am, since the anointed one, you all say he's not a prophet, he's not acceptable. So you should certainly obey him when he says simply go and wash and be cured." See, right, they say baptism and be reborn of the water and the spirit, and unless he be reborn, he can't understand again. Through a new word and spirit. First the Son of Man, the Ten Commandments, not the old one where it's all these mighty punishments and pagan. I am the Lord thy God. No, I am who I am, and I am the one. As the man of who I am instructed him, and his skin became as healthy as the skin of a young child, and he was healed. Then Naaman and his body was healed once his spirit was refined, so to speak. He went back to find the man of who I am. They stood before him. So remember, at first it was the water and the fire, but then they mixed it together and made it the lake of fire, the refinery. And so now I have the seal and the cane, or the seal and the walking cane. But Elisha replied, "As surely as who I am lives, whom I serve, I will not accept any gift." So what does it say on my description? Feed the homeless, feed the widows, the people who need healing, the garden, or I have an email, Garden of Jaden, GARDAN of JAY. I'm sorry, GARDEN of JAYDAN number 1010 at gmail.com. And it says for poems and short stories and poetry, firework, any of that stuff. If you guys are interested in me and stuff, reach out to me, and for a small fee I can give you poetry and stuff, like $1 per poem, or if it's for a short story with like decent amount of page, $5, so you know, something simple. I'm not a huge famous artist, but I can email you stuff that's beautiful. I have a poetry tab that's out there already for free. But what I'm saying is anything spiritual or help healing is free. And so then you see under all that stuff I have my Cash App. If you want to donate to the Lord or help the Lord, whatever. But what I'm saying is don't look at me and be like, I need to pay you to do this and that. No. What I'm saying is if you are rich or you guys are up there and whatever and you find me, then if you want to give thanks or appreciation, whether I say 10% tithes, I don't even ask for all that. All I ask is for a little help here and there. Then Naaman said, "All right, but please allow me to load 2 of my mules with the flesh from this place, and I will take it back home with me. From now on, I will never again offer burnt offerings or sacrifices except to who I am." See, to who he is. Now the Most High is activated in him. So always he say, I'll take dirt from 2 of the plots of land, from Moses and John the Baptist, the 2 witnesses, the word and spirit. Moses gave the word, and then John the Baptist tried to live out the spirit. When my master, the king, goes into the temple of who I am, Rimmon, to worship where he leans on my arm, there's one thing I ask. When my kings, like I said in my one video, I think it's called Dangerous, in that one poem, worship the Most High, be happy that you are free and stuff. But what I'm saying is if you're in oppressive land, if you are around oppressors and Sharia and all this other violence, or people that have dictators, don't be screaming and stuff out loud. Just worship in private. And like Daniel said, don't bow to me. That's why I keep trying to tell you all. Worship in private in the heart, and the Lord will bless you out loud in the real world. So a king comes up to me and says, worship me or die. Okay, whatever, dude. And then he walks away. Okay, whatever. Now the Lord's like, okay, you're still alive, right? But let somebody who has vain religion, I must take up the cross. Agree with your enemy quickly, right? What happened to that?
So then, but somebody comes up to me and hands me a gun. Kill these kids or I'm going to kill you. Nope, sorry, buddy. That's where I'm going to bear my cross. And so, simple stuff like that. When my master the king goes into the temple of who I am Rimmon to worship there and leans on my arm, may who I am pardon me when I bow to. And I said, go in peace, Elijah said. So Naaman started, like they say, blasphemies against the Son of Man. Who cares what gods they're worshiping? But like I'm telling you, that can manifest in the word and spirit. So I am unlocking you all truly and telling you all, if you have the truth and people are oppressing you, just do what's right. And I don't want you guys to become sacrifices. But Gehazi, the servant of Elisha, the man of who I am, said to himself, my master should not let this Aramean gets away without accepting any of his gifts. Surely as who I am lives, I will check. So see, he's doing this. And he's saying it's the most, see what I'm saying? I will chase after him and get something from him. So Gehazi said after Naaman. When Naaman saw Gehazi running after him, he climbed down from his chariot and went to meet him. Is everything all right? Naaman asked, yes, Gehazi, but my master sent me to tell you that the 2 young prophets from the hill country of Ephraim just arrived. And he was like 70. So see, look, Moses and Jesus, the 2 great prophets, they want all the glory, right? And people call me what, a blasphemer? So I'm going to explain to you all what I did with many of my videos when I say fuck the Spirit of God or fuck the Holy Spirit. God and Holy Spirit are words from Germany and England. Gudan, Gutis, and the spirit is from espiritus, from ghosts and stuff from German lore and Greek lore. The actual word and spirit is when you hear the word and get the idea of something, or then are changed or refined about something. So even when people are like, I got Jesus Christ and now my life has changed. You got words from a man in that book, and then the spirit of that man helped you, guide you. But people are now worshiping that man instead of truly going to the Father, the I am. And when I say the Father, I'm not saying worship the I am like a word. I'm saying I am the Most High. You are the Most High. But our vision's been cloudy until the Sabbath, the 7th day. By all means, take twice as much silver, Naaman insisted. He gave 2 sets of clothing, tied up the money in the bags, and sent 2 of his servants to carry the gifts for Gehazi. But when they arrived at the citadel, Gehazi took the gifts from the servants and sent the men back, and he went to hide the gifts inside the house. When he went to his master, Elisha asked him, where have you been, Gehazi? Now, stuff like this is what tweaked me out in real life. Like, if somebody said, I'd be like, what? But you never know how the word and spirit works. You can mess around and say something to somebody as they're watching a video or something, and then they'll be like, oh, that happened. Or I could be saying something like at noon or at 5, and then people could be watching at noon or 5 o'clock, and they'd be like, oh, see how the word and spirit work? They get like, oh my goodness. But Elisha asked him, don't you realize that I was there in the spirit when Naaman stepped down from his chariot to meet you? Is this the time to receive money and clothing, olive groves and vineyards, sheep and cattle, and male and female servants? Because you have done this, back to the word and spirit. When I say stuff like fuck the Spirit of God and fuck the Holy Spirit, what I'm telling you all is I am not blaspheming a real Holy Spirit when I do that. I am attacking concepts like Elijah did when he attacked the prophets of Baal and tore down their altar. Like Gideon did when he tore down the Baal pole. Like Jehu did when he tore down the gods of Baal and Baal poles and Asherah poles and Molech poles. What you guys are seeing me is attack words that you hold near and dear. And so your spirits are like, he's attacking the real God, not realizing I'm attacking a concept that's been enslaving and manipulating people through Greek Christianity and Catholicism. Also from Persian Islamic Caliphate and the Babylonian Torah. Because you have done this, you and your descendants will suffer from Naaman's leprosy forever for stealing the blessings. When Gehazi left the room, he was covered with leprosy and his skin was white. So now, when people look back at all these religious kingdoms built by the Pope and everybody else after him, what do? They mock them and don't give them any reverence. But all the people who was martyred and had common sense and taught righteously are being lifted up. Look at Zoroaster. People are going back and reading his words, loving him. Look at Gandhi and Buddha. People are going back and reading their words after being freed from this lying religion, loving their words. Now look at what people are. I see people all in John the Baptist giving total reverence to free grace, loving your brothers, mercy, and no kind of. I love it. See, the real loves are coming forward now. And the real Amos, who was a powerful pharaoh, who used that power to destroy the Hyksos, who tried to enslave Africa. One day, a group of prophets, but they tried to bury him. And Akhenaten, they tried to bury Joshua too. One day a group of prophets came to Elisha and told him, as you can see, this place where we meet with you is too small. Even look at the God of Shem is blessed, but now they're exposed as the Hyksos, the Asiatic shepherd kings, who stole African lore and tried to attack the Nubians, the Egyptians, the Cushites, the Congo. It's in written history now. Let's go down to the Jordan River where there are plenty of logs in their eyes, and we can build a new place for us to meet. All right, he told them, go ahead. Please come with us, someone suggested. I will, he said, so he sent them. So this is Elisha telling them, he's saying, I'm sorry, let me start that over. One day a group of prophets came to Elisha and told him, as you can see, this place where we met with you is too small. Let us go down to the Jordan River where there are plenty of logs, so we can build a new place. So he said, look, now go down to the Jordan, build new homes and new temples. See what I'm saying? Like, if you go read to John the Baptist's words, some of these other prophets' words, you'll see how they're building us up. Even if you look at David and Solomon, if you take away all that, the Lord God, Allah, and all those pagan God names, I'm not calling your gods pagans. I'm saying the way you're using them, and put that which I am as the Most High again, and use the words to baptize into a new spirit of fire. I'm telling you, you'll start to see. All right, he said, go ahead with them. Please come with us, someone suggested. Go ahead, and please come with us, someone suggested. I will, he said. So he went with them. When they arrived at the Jordan, they began cutting down trees. But as one of them was cutting a tree, his axe head fell into the river. Oh, sir, he cried, it was a borrowed axe. Where did it fall? The man of who I am asked. Then he showed him the place. Elisha cut a stick and threw it into the water at that spot. Then the axe head floated to the surface. Grab it, Elisha said, and the man reached out and grabbed it. When the king of Aram was at war with Israel, he would confer with his officers and say, we will mobilize our forces at such and such place. But immediately Elisha, the man of who I am, would warn the king of Israel, do not go near that place, for the Arameans are planning to mobilize their troops there. So the king of Israel would send word to the place indicated by the man of who I am. Time and again Elisha warned the king so that he would be on the alert there. The king of Aram became very upset over this. He called his officers together and demanded, which of you is the traitor who has been informing the king of Israel of my plans? So this also reminds me of, if you look at a row of kings in Rome, I'm saying this reminds me of when you go out into the world and there's certain worldly institutions and coveting and just malicious plotting and stuff. What ends up, like, there's a list of Caesars from Rome or Greece, whatever, and they were all they all died, mysteriously were murdered, or were committed suicide out of nowhere. And it started from like Julius Caesar all the way up to like till it got to Vespasian. Elijah the prophet in Israel tells the king of Israel, even the words you speak in your private bedroom. Go and find out where he is, the king commanded, so I can send troops to seize him. The report came back, Elisha is at Gotham. So one night the king of Aram sent a great army with many chariots and horses to surround the city. When the servant of the man of who I am got up early the next morning and went outside, there were troops, horses, and chariots everywhere. Oh, sir, what will we do now? The young men cried out to Elisha. Don't be afraid, Elisha told him, for there are more on our side than theirs. Then Elisha prayed, oh, who I am, open his eyes so he can see. Then who I am opened the young man's eyes, and when he looked up, he saw that the hillside around Elisha was filled with horses and chariots of fire. For it could be fulfilled, have I not written that I command legions, 10,000s upon 10,000s of angels through the Spirit? Elisha prayed, oh, who I am, make the enemies blind. So who I am struck them with blindness as Elijah had asked. Then when Elisha went out and told them, you have come to the wrong way. This isn't the right city. Follow me, and I will take you to the man you are looking for. And he led them to a city of Samaria. As soon as they had entered Samaria, Elisha prayed, oh, who I am, now open their eyes and let them see. So who I am opened their eyes, and they discovered that they were in the middle of Samaria. When the king of Israel saw them, he shouted to Elisha, my father, should I kill them or should I kill them? And me being different, as I told you all, of course not, Elisha replied. Do we kill prisoners of war, give them food and drink, and send them home again to their master? So the king, thank you for those loving words. So the king made a great feast for them and sat them home to their master. After that, the Armenian raiders stay home away from the land of Israel. Ben-Hadad besieges Samaria. Sometime later, however, King Ben-Hadad of Aram mustered his entire army and besieged Samaria. As a result, there was a great famine in the city, and the siege lasted so long that a donkey's head sold for 8 pieces of silver, and a cup of dove's dung sold for 5 pieces. So look how they're treating Noah, and they go and tear apart that dove scripture for some righteousness. And look, they have beheaded remember, he walked into Jerusalem on an ass, right? And with the jawbone of an ass, I will destroy 1,000 from Samson. Now look, John the Baptist, they said, was beheaded, and he went to Israel on an ass. And now for 80 pieces of silver, right, they could sell donkey heads. It's all symbolic. One day, as the king of Israel was walking along the wall of the city, a woman cried out for him, "Help me, please help me, my lord the king." He answered, "If who I am doesn't help you, what can I do? I have neither food from the threshing floor nor wine from the press to give you." But the king asked, "What is the matter?" She replied, "This woman said to me, 'Come on, let's eat your son today. Then will we eat my son tomorrow?' So we cooked my son and ate him. Then the next day I said to her, 'Kill your son so we can eat him,' but she has hidden her son." Now look at what this is saying. This is saying, don't cook a goat in its mother's milk. So whatever that guy's name, Samson and the other prophet, or the other judge, when he went to war and made a swearing vow, and when he came back, he saw who he saw first, and then had to make that sacrifice. Okay, I don't got nothing to do with that. I'm just explaining to y'all something. That's a representation of when Josephus went to Rome and didn't carry through with his pact, went to Rome, sold out Jehohanan and all this other stuff, and made him a great god. And then now all the people of the original people that was following the 10 Commandments and the law was being slaughtered for a Jesus or a Jesuit or all this other stuff. A representation of people on one side of the wall slaughtering their people because of pagan gods, the Catholics, but then on the other side of the wall, the Christians was like, nope, not going. You got me messed up, if that makes sense. So the slaughtering of Jehohanan, but then the redemption of Jehanan. It's like a super deep prophecy, if that makes sense. When the king heard this, he tore his clothes in despair, and as the king walked along the wall, the people could see that he was wearing burlap under the robe next to his skin. May who I am, not reading that. So he said he's going to separate Elisha's head from his shoulders. Elisha was sitting in his house with the elders of Israel when the king sent messengers to summon him. But before the messenger arrived, Elisha said to the elders, "A murderer has sent a man to cut off my head. When he arrives, shut the door and keep him out. We will soon hear his master's footsteps following him." When Elisha was saying this, the messenger arrived. The king said, "All this misery from who I am, why should I wait for who I am any longer?" Elisha said, "Listen to this message from who I am. This is what who I am says. By this time tomorrow, in the markets of Samaria, six quarts of choice flour, so 6 jugs of water turned to wine, will cost only 1 piece of silver." And see how cheap I'm doing all this, and I'm saying give freely and let everybody be happy. Where y'all going?
I gotta pick up Levi.
Oh, okay. Okay. Love y'all. See you later. And 12 quarts of barley. Look, the 12 quarts. Now I keep the 12 elders at the bottom of the scroll, and I basically give it for free. The officers assisting the king said to the man of who I am, "That couldn't happen even if who I am opened the windows of the heart." But Elisha replied, "You will see it happen with your own eyes, but you won't be able to eat any of it." Because what do? They reject me every time. Now there were 4 men with leprosy sitting at the entrance of the city gates. "Why should we sit here waiting to die?" they asked each other. "We will starve if we stay here. But with the famine in the city, we will starve if we go back there. So we might as well go out and surrender to the Armenian army. But if they let us live, so much the better. But if they kill us, we would have died anyway." So they basically saying it's worth it whether they win or lose. So that's how some people feel. They be like, you know what, all this Christianity and Catholicism, all these religions, let me just check it out. And let me just check the word. And they get into the Son of Man, the covenant, the 10 or whatever, the way I put it as a flint knife, like in Joshua. And they be learning. They be like, oh my goodness, when I saw your light, when I saw the light of that which is. So at twilight, they set out for the camp of the Arameans, but when they came to the edge of the camp, no one was there. For Huam had caused the Aramean army to hear the clatter of spreading chariots and the galloping of horses and the sounds of a great army approaching. The king of Israel has hired his Hittites and Egyptians to attack us, they cried to another. So they panicked and ran in the night and abandoned their tents, horses, and donkeys. Now look at what this said. The king of Israel has hired Hittites and Egyptians. Are you seeing what I'm saying? These people were ancient African and Egyptians, and then they were Canaanites. Then Babylon, Assyrians, Persians, and Greeks and Romans attacked. I'm not saying the Canaanites were doing their thing. They had their problems. But what I'm saying is it's a nation that was doing something that was attacked over and over and over. So they panicked and ran into the night, abandoning their tents, horses, donkeys, and everything else as they fled for their lives. When the men with leprosy arrived at the edge of the camp, they went to one tent after another, eating and drinking wine, and they carried off silver and gold and clothing. But then the consciousness, finally they said to each other, this is not right. This is a day of good news, and we aren't sharing it with anyone. If we wait until the morning, some calamity will certainly fall upon us. Come on, let us go back and tell the people at the palace. So they went back to the city and told the gatekeepers what had happened. We went out into the Armenian camp, they said, and no one was there. The horses and donkeys were tethered, and the tents were all in order, tethered. But there wasn't a single person around. Then the gatekeepers shouted the news to the people in the palace. The king got out of bed in the middle of the night and told his officers, I know what has happened. The Armenians know we are starving, so they have left their camp and have hidden in the fields. They are expecting us to leave the city, and they will take us alive and capture the city. One of his officers replied, we have better send out scouts to check into this. Let them take 5 of the remaining horses. If something happens to them, there will be no worse if they stay here and die with the rest of us. So 2 chariots with horses were prepared, and the king sent scouts to see what they happened to the Armenian army. So another prophecy you can look at this as, there's 5 books in the Bible. There's the Torah, the Judges, the prophets, the apostles, and then the Revelation or the revealers. They went out the way to the Jordan River following a trail of clothing and equipment that the Armenians had thrown away in their mad rush to escape. The scouts returned and told the king about it. Then the people of Samaria rushed out and plundered the Armenian camp. It was true that 6 quarts of choice flour was sold that day for 1 piece of silver, and 12 quarts of barley, from JB6 giving the righteous elders for free, damn near. And the barley, and asking if you all can. I mean, y'all are saying according to this book that I will have honor and glory and riches and all this other stuff when I return, or when that which I am appear. But I don't even want all that. I'm just telling y'all I'd like some appreciation, maybe a thank you here and there, or maybe this one. I was scared at first because I didn't know exactly what was happening. But this lady said, oh, Lord, King of Kings, the Lord Jesus Christ has appeared. And I deleted her comment. I didn't mean to deny her, but I still wasn't ready yet to breach. I thought I was transgressing or something by using I am in a way that wasn't. But I am here now and I am ready. The king appointed his officer to control the traffic at the gate, but he was knocked down and trampled as the people were rushed out. So I'm telling y'all, guards and stuff, this is freely for everybody. So everything happened exactly that the man of who I am had predicted when the king came to the house. The man of that which I am had said to the king, by this time tomorrow in the markets of Samaria, 6 quarts of choice flour will cost 1 piece of silver, and 12 quarts of barley grain will cost 1 piece of silver. The king's officer had replied, that couldn't happen even if who I am had opened the windows of the heart. And the man of who I am had said, you will see it happen with your own eyes, but you won't be able to eat any of it. And so it was for the people trample him at the gate. The woman of the Shunem returns home. Elisha had told the woman whose son he had brought back to life, take your family and move to some other place, for who I am has called a famine on Israel that will last 7 years till the Sabbath. So the woman did as the man of whom I am instructed, and she took her family and settled in the land of the Philistines for 7 years. Philistines. After the famine ended, she returned from the land of the Philistines, and she went to see the king about getting back her horse and land. And she came in the king, and well, and she came in. The king was talking with Gehazi, the servant of the man of that which I am. The king had just said, "Tell me some stories about the great things Elisha has done." And Gehazi was telling the king about the time Elisha had brought a boy back to life. At that very moment, the mother of the boy walked in to make her appeal to the king about her house and land. "Look, my lord the king," Gehazi exclaimed, "here is the woman now and her son, and the very one Elisha brought back to life." "Is this true?" the king asked her, and she told him the story. So she directed one of his officials to see that everything she lost was returned to her, including the value of any crops that had been harvested during her absence. Elisha went to Damascus, the capital of Aram, where King Ben-Hadad lay sick, when someone told the king that the man of Huam had come. The king said to Hazael, "Take a gift to the man of Huam, then tell him to ask who I am, will I recover him from this illness." So Hazael loaded down 40 camels with the finest products of Damascus as a gift for Elisha. He went to him and said, "Your servant Ben-Hadad, the king of Aram, has sent me to ask you, will I recover from this illness?" Elisha replied, "Go and tell him you will surely recover, but actually Huam has shown me that he will surely die." Elisha stared at Hazael with a fixed gaze until Hazael became uneasy. Then the man of Huam started weeping. "What's the matter, my lord?" Hazael asked him. Elisha replied, "I know the terrible things you will do to the people of Israel. You will burn their fortified cities and harm their young men with the word, harm their children with your spiritual teachings, and rip open the minds of the prophets, trying to give birth, tearing apart the minds of the people, trying to give birth to new prophets or new ideas or new teachings." Hazael responded, "How could nobody like me ever accomplish such things?" And Elisha answered, "Huam has shown me that you are going to be king of Aram." When Hazael left Elijah and went back, the king asked him, "What did Elisha tell you?" Hazael replied, "He told me that you will surely recover." But the next day Hazael took a blanket and soaked it in water and held it over the king's face until he died. Then Hazael became the next king. Brutal. So he basically drowned him in the word. So he created a garment and drowned him with the garment that he created. So I don't want to get into Jehoram and Yehu and all these other guys, because it's just basically talking about Jehu utterly destroying the pagan kings and the pagan, and I mean, he went ham. So, like when I say this, when I talk to you guys about killing and stuff, I don't know, in history there may have been something that happened, but I'm teaching you all that what I'm doing is using the word and spirit to destroy concepts of these other kings and liars and spiritual leaders. And even when I say liar, all truth is objective to the person believing and subjective to others upon which they want to pick up. So anybody who maliciously or unnecessarily lies on others for no reason, just be lying. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I mean. Like, so yeah, if you guys want to get into that stuff, I mean, you can, I guess. I don't, because even if you pay attention right here, there's a spot. When Yehu left there, he met Yehonadab. That kind of reminds me of Yeho and Yehohanan, or Yehanan and Yehohanan, son of Rechab, who was coming to meet him. And I learned a lesson from the story. The man still had pagan idols in the house. So like I said, don't worship John the Baptist. I am who I am. I am the living one. I am the word and spirit, if that makes sense, if you can comprehend what I'm saying. Don't worship flesh kings, but understand the word and spirit. Yehu said to him, when Yehu left there, he met Yehonadab, son of Rechab, who was coming to meet him. After they greeted each other, Yehu said to him, "Are you loyal to me as I am to you?" "Yes, I am," Yehonadab replied. "If you are," Yehu said, "then give me your hand So Jehonadab put his hand out, and Jehu helped him into the chariot. Then Jehu said, "Now come with me, and see how devoted I am to who I am." And Jehonadab rode along with him. When he who arrived to Samaria, he killed everyone who was left in Ahab's family, just as who I am promised to the prophet of Elijah. Then Jehu called the meeting, so basically destroyed all the other concepts, so Jehohanan could be alive again. People can understand his name and understand his legacy and give righteous thanks to the man like a prophet, like anybody else, and so that he could rest in peace, so to speak. Jehu called the meeting of all the people of the city and said to them, Ahab's worship of Baal was nothing compared to the way I will worship him. So I like this story because it's basically Samson minus the last part of Samson, the bricks hitting him because he was a strong, fiery prophet. Therefore, summon all the prophets and worshippers of Baal and call together his priests, and see it that every one of them comes, for I am going to offer a great sacrifice to Baal. That's funny right there. Anyone who fails to come will be put to death. But Jehu's cunning plan was to destroy all the worshippers of Baal. So basically all these different concepts, this is the same thing as all the followers of Babylon coming onto one roof, and then the city split into 3 sections. And then remember that now there's 3 at the end: the beast, the dragon, and the false prophet. Then the fire that don't consume, burn them up and offer them up. I'm saying the concepts, not literally sacrificing people. The concepts, the teachings, the lies of all this other stuff, and the Son of Man, the Word and the Spirit, can finally live again. Then Jehu ordered, prepare a solemn assembly to worship Baal. So they did, and he sent messengers throughout all the land. So look, now I'm taking the jawbone of the ass that they used, right? He rode into the Jerusalem with the ass, and I'm about to utterly destroy the Philistines with my spirit of fire, but without doing so, without causing harm to myself either, because I'm a strong, fiery rock, temple of who I am. They all came, not a single one remained behind, and they filled the temple of Baal from one end to another. And Jehu instructed the keeper of the wardrobe, be sure that the worshippers of Baal wears these robes. So robes were given to them. Then Jehu went into the temple of Baal with Jehonadab, son of Rehab. Jehu said to the worshippers of Baal, make sure no one who worships who I am is here, only those who worship Baal. So they were all inside the temple to offer sacrifices and burnt offerings. Now Jehu had stationed 80 of his men. If you pay attention at the first of my videos, is the first 4 commandments, and then the other 8, because I added thou shalt not rape to it too. 80 of his men outside the building, and they had warned them, if you let anyone escape, you will pay for it with your own life. As soon as Jehu had finished sacrificing the burnt offering, he commanded his guards and officers, go in and slay all of them. Don't let a single one escape. So they killed all of them with their sword, with the words that they used to destroy their old concepts, not killing for real. And the guards officers dragged their bodies outside. Then the Jehu's men went to the innermost fortress of the temple of Baal, and they dragged out the sacred pillar like when Gideon destroyed the Baal, the Asherah's pole used in the worship of Baal, and burned it. They smashed the sacred pillar and wrecked the temple of Baal, converting it into a public toilet as there remains today. And this way Jehu destroyed every trace of Baal worship from Israel. Alright. He did not, however, destroy the gold calves at Bethel and Dan. Which is to me, look, the Bethlehem, so John the Baptist, and then Moses, the tribe of Dan will judge their people. The wisdom was the fiery wisdom, and who was the word? Moses. So it's kind of representing the Torah and the Old Testament and New Testament. I mean, because what am I going to do? It's not so much what am I going to do, but there was a promise made. But nevertheless, who I am say you have done good in following my instructions and in destroying the family of Ahab. Therefore, your descendants will be kings of Israel down to the 4th generation. So see, look, then when Jehohanan came after the 5th and 6th generation, we were happy because there was no more kings and we began to break through. So, yeah, I hope you all can enjoy. That's just a little piece of my heart talking about Elijah and Elisha to help further edify who I am and to help you all with the fire and the light. Have a blessed day, and I love as many of you as I can, because if I say I love you all, yeah, I may love you all, but I don't love the things some of you all do all the time. So you all will be more kind to each other. You will begin to follow all of the law, which is love who I am with all your heart and soul, and your neighbor the same. You will begin to build up Yahweh, because Yahweh is JB, like you all promised. You all have made covenants. So just like I made a covenant to save you all and free you all and not destroy you all, that means you all have to keep your end of the covenant. I hope you understand what I'm saying, because a lot of men made promises to that which I am, and you see what happens when they didn't fulfill them. So am I telling you all to slay and sacrifice and do all those other things? No. I'm saying tell the truth, be kind and humble, and start to build who I am up. Have a blessed day, because I am the King of Kings, and I am waiting.